And this isn't live, so got a good view of the bottle there.
There it is. There's the bottle. Welcome.
Yeah, this is what we have tonight for the
Sextons or Sexton?
Sexton.
SEX or SAX?
It's me.
Sexton.
Sexton.
As always, I am your host, the champ, Robert Solomon.
He is. I don't know what he's the champ of.
Don't know either. I got it for a buddy of mine. Got it for me for my birthday. It's not even like the big expensive $200 straps, but it'll work. It'll work.
But
should you? Because they're not gonna see my face. You can bend it up a little bit.
We could. We're having some issues trying to get the phone just right here.
We're having just issues. Period. If you watch the live video, if you're coming from the live video to watch this, welcome to our Patreon donors. Here's a toast to our Patreon donors.
Uncanny Spirits Club.
Uncanny Spirits Club. Welcome. Oh, it's smooth, but it has a bite. It's like a pillow with sandpaper.
I don't know about that, but
I don't know.
In case you missed it, it's the Sexton Single Malt Irish Whiskey.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You can get it usually probably from your local grocery store.
Probably.
Runs in the neighborhood of about $35.
Champs here.
$35, give or take. Some people, I don't know what your local alcohol pricing is going to be because that's set by your state, but here in Ohio it's about $35. It's got a nice kind of reddish.
It's almost like an amber.
Yeah, amber color to it.
Amber color. And his is a little bit dark because it's fuller.
Yeah.
And mine's in a
plastic
plastic
glass
cup.
too.
Yeah.
So. But this is it's a single malt, so it's made from a single batch.
Yep.
As opposed to some of your blended whiskeys and things like that. Unlike our last Uncanny Spirits Club, which was the Slipknot number 9.
Yeah.
This is not a corn mash moonshine whiskey. This is a more standard Irish whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Bottled in it says distilled in copper pots, and it has a little story on it, a little bit of writing on it if you guys are interested, which kind of fits the paranormal mood that we have around here.
Is there a skeleton on the front of that?
There is. It says
skeleton
up in the cold grey northern reaches of County Antrim, which is in Ireland. Alongside St. Colum's Rill, the Sexton selects the best strains of barley for malting, patiently distilled in copper pot stills to create a precious elixir. The Sexton whiskey is a smooth and flavorful single malt of intriguing complexity. Now that's a lot of big words, but I actually agree with some of that because it is pretty. It is
smooth,
kind of complex,
but it's got a bite,
and
it's smooth but bitey.
It's good stuff. I like it. It's one of my favorites actually. Since I really got into whiskey the last couple of years here, this has been probably one of my favorites, and it's a pretty distinctive bottle too. It's in like a, not really an octagon. Oh, it's a hexagon. It's a hexagon barrel.
Yeah, it's a hexagon.
Like a
hexagonical.
Yeah, hexagon kind of barrel.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice barrel. I like that. I like the shape. I like the skeleton on the top hat on the front. I like the old timey writing. There's like that old timey writing to it.
Triple distilled product of Ireland, and one of the things that stands out to me about it is it has a very peat bog kind of a taste to it, and people probably think are like, a peat bog, you like a swamp? Does it taste like a swamp? Well, no and yes. It has a really kind of like, if you knew what peat smelled like,
right? If
you were near that kind of thing, you would know the taste that this has. Almost a bergamot kind of taste, like an Earl Grey kind of thing at the very back end, and it is very smooth. I mean, you remarked when you first had it that it was really smooth.
I like it.
It's not very acidic. A lot of our American bourbons have a very acidic kind of feel to them.
Maker's Mark is like that. Maker's Mark has like a crazy
Jack Daniels, Jim Beam,
Jimmy, unless it's like a flavored. I noticed the flavor doesn't have the bite.
It takes some of the edge off.
Right. Like I got a bottle of Evan Williams apple, and it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good actually, and it wasn't really sugary or sweet. I mean, the Jim Beam apple is really sweet. We got that before.
Yeah.
The one we got the one time Bird Dog.
Bird Dog.
That was super sweet.
Super sweet.
Man,
But that's a lower.
Drink
That's also a lower alcohol content as well, which kind of probably made up for it. It was probably mid shelf, whereas this is the Sexton is top shelf.
Is it top shelf?
Yep, it's from top shelf.
I think for the next one we're going to try to get some Suntory, which is a Japanese whiskey,
which he has had. I have not. So we're going to turn the tables a little bit on this whiskey drinking.
Now, the Japanese whiskey, it has the biggest bite right when you take the first shot or the first sip. Once the whiskey has been popped and is allowed to breathe, it takes on a really smooth and kind of delicious flavor. Now, with the Japanese whiskey, it's not amber colored. It's more of like a yellow, almost like a lemonade kind of color. The bottle is in like a rectangular, sits up about that high off the table. So like here's my hand. It's about that high. And it has a really like the first taste is just like like it's a punch in the face.
Mm-hmm.
It really just gets in there and punches you right in the face. But then like once you start like sipping on it, you know, it's definitely something you want to sip on, not something you want to like good. Once you have sipped on it a little bit, it starts really mellowing out. Then the bottle itself mellows out. It sits at about $35. And so, yeah, I definitely would like to get that for this because I think he would like it. Like I said, it's real bitey and real acidic at first. Like, you're like, ooh, one of them shake liquors. You know, you just shake because it's real acidic. But once you get into the bottle, it starts tasting like, you can taste the barrel. A lot of whiskeys, a lot of brandies, a lot of barrel aged liquors take on that woody kind of woody taste.
It depends a lot on what you've had in the barrels before. Like we had two choices that we could pick for tonight. We had either the Sexton, which Rob had never had, or we had the Pike Creek, which we've both had. Mm-hmm. The Pike Creek is a Canadian whiskey, and it's aged in rum barrels.
Sure is,
which is a nice touch. A lot of your whiskeys are aged in sherry barrels. And which gives it kind of a different feel towards the back end. So, but the Pike Creek is aged in rum barrels, which adds a nice little definition to it. This is more standard. It's in standard oak barrels. I'm not sure just how long. It doesn't really say how long. Oak barrels once filled with Spanish sherry. So Spanish sherry is one of the things that was in the barrels that the Sexton was casked in to age properly. And I'm not enough of an expert on whiskey making to talk about the aging process and going into all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to go into a big long explanation about why that's important. You can get the single malt, which is usually an aged whiskey, which is anywhere from 10, 12, 14 years, a lot of times for the high-end stuff for Scotch. Mm-hmm. Or there's blended whiskeys, like Dewar's has a lot of blended whiskeys, blended Scotch, it's much less mileage, so to speak, but still pretty good depending on how you cask it. And I'm not a brewmaster, I'm not an expert, so I can't go into the ins and outs on what effect a lot of that has. But I like to look for whiskeys that have been aged in new and different kind of casks. Oak is the standard, and a lot of times it's sherry, like this one here.
Brandies and stuff are usually aged in oak barrels because you can taste the oak in a roundabout way. You get the taste of the barrel, and that's not always a good thing. I think a lot of times when you have that oak finish, it kind of ruins it depending on how. So if it starts out punching you in the face and it ends by punching you in the face, I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's best if it hits you right away and then mellows out into sort of a smooth taste, a nice smooth finish. And usually that happens once you let the whiskey breathe. Because when it's in the bottle, it's kind of trapped in there. But once you put it in a cup like we did, put it in a glass or whatever, what have you, it tends to breathe. And then once it breathes, it starts tasting better. You can also add 2 drops of water, like a couple drops of water. And that'll also open up the flavor packet.
Palate.
We can do palate too. We can do packets and
or
pallets.
A flavor packet. Speaking of flavor packets, that reminds me of a story, and I still don't know if it was satire or not. I've seen a couple people share it about Glenlivet making whiskey in pods, like Tide Pods, but filled with whiskey, and you just pop them in your mouth. And I've seen the story a couple times, and neither time has been from a website that I knew for sure was a parody website. So I'm kind of like, is that a real thing? And it looks like it was a limited thing they only had for certain like special events. I think that's weird because it's like definitely guaranteeing that you have to have a shot for one thing. And for another, I mean, the plastic is supposed to dissolve in your mouth. It's like a dissolving substance, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to dissolve a plasticky substance with my whiskey or my scotch, Glenlivet or otherwise. Glenlivet is fantastic. There's a reason why it's one of the best in the world, but I don't want a Glenlivet pod. I don't.
It's really weird to me.
Look it up because I've been reading about it the last few weeks. I've only seen a couple of news articles about it, and I don't think it would take that championship belt, really. I'd rather have standard Glenlivet from a bottle to pour into my cup here. He's going to award it the championship, so he must like it.
Yeah, I enjoy it, so I'm going to give it a championship belt. Because it's nice and smooth. The initial taste was real smooth. It has a nice finish. It's a little bit hard hitting. It's not something.
It's very bold.
It's not a whiskey you want to sit there and just play chug-a-rooskies. You shouldn't do that with the whiskey, regardless. Just because it's whiskey and you could really fucking make it freaking make yourself sick.
I guess this is for patrons, and we're gonna try to make it
We can edit that out.
My phone is sliding. But
we can edit that out, right?
I mean, we could. Should we?
Yeah, probably should.
We'll edit this whole section.
I don't want people to not think that I have
3, 2, back on.
Yeah. So, championship belt. I'll give it the championship belt award, just because I thought it was a real smooth type of whiskey, one that because whiskey doesn't really come smooth a lot of times when we get whiskeys. It ends up having like a weird bite to it, or because even the Pikes Creek, which I really like, it has a real like serious bite.
It does. Like, I like to call it the kerosene factor.
Yeah.
In whiskeys, certain whiskeys,
Pendleton.
Certain whiskeys have that initial amount where when you drink it, you feel like you're tasting some noxious fuel almost, and then maybe the whiskey kicks in afterwards. Jack Daniels and a lot of your American
Maker's Mark
bourbons
does that.
Have a tendency of being all like a kerosene blast in your mouth, like it's just a fire that's just like, phew. And there's flavor in there, but a lot of times it's overshadowed by the kerosene effect, as I like to call it.
And they're real acidic, so you don't get any relief on the back end. Now I'm okay with it being like hard hitting at first, but I need it to mellow out as I'm drinking it. You know, brandy was like that for me. What I would do is I would get a glass, put a couple ice cubes in it, pour like maybe a quarter of a glass of brandy. And the first drink, oh man, that'd knock you on your keister. But the second, third, fourth, because the ice is slowly melting, it's opening up the flavor packets, right? Because you put the flavor palette, and it would open it up. And it got better and better and better. I think with like this would go good with ice. I think this would go real good with ice. But whiskey, I think in general, I like stuff on the rocks. Like I like my drinks on the rocks, and preferably I'd rather have this whiskey on the rocks. I think the Iowa on the rocks would have been fantastic. The Slipknot whiskey would have been good on the rocks.
I mean, for me, I usually drink my alcohol straight up. I don't usually drink it with as chilled or anything. But some things are better with a chill to them. Like this, because it kind of has that peat bog kind of feel to it. To me, it reminds me of like a peat swamp almost, and not in a bad way.
Because that's where he drinks from. He gets his whiskey
I go out there
from
with
the
old
swamp
Greg.
with an old bottle. I got some whiskey today.
But it feels like it should be something that should be, if not cold, it should be chilled as if you had it kind of like sitting in a barrel in the peat bog, being kind of cold from the natural coldness of the bog there, and then you pulled it out and had something to drink.
Because as this is warming up, it's starting to get a little bit less smooth and more bitey on the back end. A little bit more acidic, and I'm not a fan of super acidic whiskeys. This one's good. But I think like with Maker's Mark or Jack Daniels, It's just a fight. This is like it's beating
It's
you up
not
as you're
often
drinking
that
it.
you're gonna see us probably drinking like Jack Daniels.
No.
I'm not gonna say that it's bad. Like,
Maybe the
Jack and
Tennessee
Cokes.
apple. I'm kind of curious about that Tennessee apple.
Yeah.
The Evan Williams apple was good. It didn't have that real, but at the same time, I mixed it with apple cider and the new Coke cinnamon because I was a big fan of Pepsi Fire. And cinnamon Coke is it's not Pepsi Fire, but mixing it like the two plus the Evan Williams was fantastic. It was a great drink. I think with this, it would be good with a Coke. Most whiskeys are good with Cokes. For some,
because the bites go together. Because Coke is a more biting soda versus Pepsi. Pepsi is a smoother soda generally.
As to where rums and stuff are better with fruit juices. You know, like a good rum is great with pineapple juice or coconut juice.
Now, if I'm out watching like a music show, like if I'm watching a band or something like that, my preferred drink usually, if I'm not just gonna have a beer of some kind, is to have a Jack and Coke.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with Jack and Coke.
And when you go out, a lot of times here in Ohio, they water it down with so much ice that you don't get a whole lot of Jack into it. So it's not like you're going to get really like messed up from like 2 or 3 Jack and Cokes. But that's what I like because I like to have some flavored whiskey while I'm out. I don't have the luxury of just sipping on a good whiskey while I'm at a show. So, but if I have my choice, I don't usually have stuff like Jack Daniels or anything that's harsh with the high quote unquote kerosene factor.
But the Coke will dead a lot of that taste. Coke's good for that. If you have a liquor you don't like, and it's a rum, a whiskey, a scotch, a bourbon, any dark liquor, really brandy, vodka, really any liquor, Coke will destroy the taste for the most part. So if it's something you don't like, but you want to drink it because somebody bought it for you or you got it on a trial run, then drink Coke because Coke will help kind of bust up the bad taste. It did with Maker's Mark. When I ended up drinking the rest of the Maker's Mark, I ended up getting Coke, and I'm like, I need some Coke with this, and then it just went. The harshness went right down the hill. It was done. With the Iowa whiskey, a couple drops of water did it, because that kind of erased the bite and kind of allowed the flavor to really seep out of the whiskey, which is what you want. You don't want it to be trapped. You don't want the flavor to be trapped. You want to go to Flavor Town.
And you don't want to dilute the flavor too much either, because you don't want to just dilute it with a whole bunch of water and just water it down to the point where you can't taste what the whiskey's supposed to taste like. Otherwise, you might as well just be drinking a White Claw.
Come on, don't bring that up here. You don't get the belt White Claw.
Now, speaking of other kinds of alcohol, I know usually on the show, primarily for this, we're going to be drinking whiskeys because that's our preference.
Yes, sure is.
For you guys watching, if you want to send us messages after you've watched this episode, since this is going to be on Patreon, you're going to see it from there. I don't know if you can. I don't remember if you can send us direct messages in Patreon or not. If you can't,
you can
either do that or send us messages through Facebook and say, "Hey, I'd like you to try name an alcohol."
Because we're looking to try the Saint Germain, elderberry,
elderflower.
I don't know how I feel about that yet.
Elderflower.
I'm not sure how that's going to taste. So
yeah,
and but it's expensive. It's not cheap.
You can have us try rums. I'm not a big vodka fan, but I will try it at least once. I probably won't drink a whole lot of it, but I'll try it.
And we probably won't drink it straight.
Tequilas, we kind of have a bad history with tequila, so if you want us to drink a tequila, we're going to limit it a little bit to a little amount for tasting.
Yeah, that'll be about it.
Whiskey is the safest so far for us, but we are open to trying other things. If you would like to see other things, we're not going to try any White Claws.
We probably won't try a lot of beers either.
Not so much. Although the Yingling Hershey's Porter,
we're going to try
when it comes out, I think we could try that because that looks delicious.
And I wish I would have had the Ignite Oktoberfest because, man, it was like drinking a pumpkin. They're like drinking a pumpkin. Not like the thickness of a pumpkin, but like that nice pumpkin allspice taste. Not pumpkin spice, not pumpkin flavored latte, but like I like a good pumpkin beer myself. I think it's kind of it kind of brings the fall in, just like I like a good Christmas beer. To me, I like a good like Christmas seasonal style beer. I'm a big shandy fan. I like summer shandies, orange shandies. The berry shandy's okay. Now I'll tell you what's good is just beer. Just Kugel makes it's just beer. It's really just beer. and it's good. It's good. It has a weird smell at first. So like when you're smelling it, you're like, this kind of stinks.
That's another difference too between us as far as for beer drinking. I'm real heavy into the ports and stouts.
Oh yeah.
He's more into the lagers.
And the fruitier, and not fruitier like Mike's
the
Hard
lagers and
Lemonade.
the ales that are more that aren't like the heavy ales. I like heavy ales that are leaning towards the dark beers. He likes a little bit more on the lighter.
Yeah, I do.
We don't usually get into like the really super light stuff. Like we probably not gonna be drinking Bud Light and stuff.
No.
But you know, as far as the gamut goes, like Rolling Rock is pretty good. It's probably the lightest thing.
That's the lightest we drink. Really is. Rolling Rock.
Because I like the crispness of it.
Yeah, and it's good with lemons. You put a lemon or a lime in Rolling Rock, and I'll be like, don't fruit the beer. Then don't watch the show. Corona's good. I like Corona. My favorite Mexican beer though is by far Pacifico. Pacifico is a good beer, but it's the best when you have food. Mexican food and Pacifico go together like hands and gloves. They go together really well. I don't recommend drinking Pacifico by itself because it doesn't really open up for you unless you have food. Like a nice cold Pacifico, put in a I don't know what they call those. They're mugs, but there's a name, like a chilled mug where they keep it in the freezer and then you pour it and put your little lemon or lime, whatever, lime. And it's good. It goes good with tacos. It goes good with burritos, quesadillas, refried beans, the Mexican rice. It matches almost like a wine. It matches the flavor palette, and to me, that's fantastic. So, you got anything else to say? These good folks.
I think that about does it. We usually keep these videos between 15 minutes and a half hour.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much you can say about a certain kind of whiskey without just repeating yourself 12,000 times.
Right.
But again, if you missed it, this is
Sexton.
the Sexton. Let me turn it around so you can
Sextons
see it.
or Sexton?
Sexton.
So
the Sexton Irish
singular
single malt Irish whiskey. You can get it at your grocery store, probably in the neighborhood of about $35, give or take, depending on taxes in your state. Okay?
Stay spooky. We're gonna do that? Stay spooky?
You can do that. Yeah, it's that season. It's going to be Halloween time.
Stay spooky. See you in the next one. See you in November. What are we thinking for November? Give them kind of like a hint.
Well, I know I have some stuff on the way.
You got the Predator, but
I have the Predator, which is
it's
based on the movie Predator. It's called Dutch bourbon whiskey, based on the character Dutch, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it has a heavy bergamot taste, very Earl Grey in a whiskey. I really like it. I really like it, but you got to order bottles. You can't buy them locally, so it takes forever to get them. So that's on the way. If it gets here in time, we might drink that. Otherwise,
maybe we should skip a whiskey for the next one.
We can pick something else. We can see what we got.
Maybe we should do that beer for the next one.
Because it'll be holiday time.
Yeah,
it'll be close to holiday time. Will be, because we usually do these about halfway through the month.
And we could also do like a, if we have the funds, obviously, but Old World Market has a buy your own beer pack where you can get like a 6 of just beers you kind of throw together
just
on
taste.
the shelf.
You can just do it
and then like get 6 of them.
Yeah, John Eagle does the same thing.
Maybe 2 apiece.
Yep.
And go from there. So yeah, I think we're gonna do something different than whiskey.
Yep. So if you guys have any other suggestions other than what we talked about, and it's feasible and it's something that we can afford around the time, then we'll get together on that. And because this is all for you guys, these videos are for you more than anything else. Otherwise, we'd just be downing half the bottle and filming drunk videos of ourselves being whiskey drunk.
Right. Which is very rare because of these events that we've been doing so late. We drink ourselves till we're tired. So.
Yeah. All right, so that sounds about right. So unless we hear from you guys and you have a different suggestion, then we will probably go with some sort of holiday theme.
Yeah, we should.
For November.
We should. So, hey guys, we'll see you in the next video. As always, stay uncanny.